Good morning, everyone. I'm Erin Turbot, the Public Information Officer with the Wyoming Department of Workforce Services. I'm thrilled to welcome you to today's virtual training series, Straight Talk on Unemployment Insurance, a panel for workers and employers. This series is based on your feedback, and we're excited to cover topics that matter to you most. Check out our website at dws.wyo.gov/VTS to see our upcoming sessions, register, and see past event recordings. We're going to share a link in the chat right now. Today's session is being recorded and will be available on our site within a few days. If you have questions during the presentation, just pop them into chat and our presenters will answer them at the end of the presentation. The presentation today will be a panel discussion with our very own DWS Unemployment Division staff, and you are in great hands. This panel has nearly 90 years of combined unemployment-related experience. The first 45 minutes of today we will spend going through the really common questions we hear, which will range from the beginnings of the unemployment claim all the way to the end. We'll address employers' rights and obligations, and finally, fraud concerns. The last 15 minutes will be an opportunity for you, the audience, to ask any questions that we missed. So feel free to put your questions into the chat or the Q&A area, and we will do our best to get them all answered. Do keep questions general, as we cannot address specific claims due to potential privacy concerns. However, if you do have other questions, please reach out to 307-235-3217 for employer tax and 307-473-3789 for claimants. Someone's going to put those into the chat right now. There is also a very helpful reference that we want to make sure you have in your hands before we get started, the UI Claimants Guidebook. And now let's dive in. Please join me in welcoming today's panel speakers. First, we have Amy Hauk with UI Claims. We have Kay Brown with UI Claims. We have Stacy Huss, UI Employer Tax. We have Jacob Counts. Jacob, I think I made a typo on you are UI Employer Tax as well, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, I made a mistake on my little script here. Jacob is with UI Employer Tax. Shelby Cunningham, the Reemployment Program Manager. And then Kristen Farabee, Unemployment Insurance Fraud. And today's moderator is our very own Workforce Programs Administrator, Holly Simone. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for being here today. And I'm going to turn this over to Holly now.
Thank you, Erin. I appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. We're glad to have you here and share information about unemployment insurance. I'm grateful to work with this amazing panel that has tons of experience and expertise. I wanted to give you a quick overview of some recent UI changes, and then we'll look at some frequently asked questions, as Erin has mentioned previously. So a couple of things you might notice is that our YUI system is now in a mobile-friendly version. So before, if you were trying to apply for UI benefits or look at your account on your phone, sometimes it was a little difficult to see that information. And now we have moved to a new mobile-friendly version, so it should be really easy to use on your telephone or phone device or iPad. So take a look at that. It's got some great features and is a lot more user-friendly. The other thing that we've been working hard on is making sure that our correspondence and some of our screens are in plain language. And what that means is we're going to try to not talk so much in acronyms and government speak and really be clear about what we need from you as an employer or as a claimant. and what our deadlines are and how the process works. So we went through a big study on that. We actually utilized some focus group participants, and they were real life everyday people that gave us some feedback on that. So hopefully you will notice that as well. So those are just a couple of recent UI changes. There are others, but those are probably our largest two. Next, we're going to walk through some frequently asked questions, and we'll start with talking about the UI claim process for an individual from the start of the claim forward, then what to do if your benefits are denied, what is required while receiving UI benefits, and then talk through some employer questions, and finally fraud, as Erin has mentioned. So the first thing we're going to look at is an initial claim. And I believe this one goes out to Amy. The question that we get a lot is, how can a person qualify for unemployment insurance?
All right, good morning. That's a great question. I'm going to give a very broad explanation. To be eligible for unemployment benefits, an individual must meet several requirements. They must be employed through no fault of their own, and they must have earned enough wages to meet the minimum wage requirement. We'll get into that a little bit later. Additionally, individuals must be able, available, and actively seeking work. They must have at least 2 job contacts each week. They are also required to register for work with their nearest state job service and fulfill all other ongoing eligibility criteria, such as timely filing their weekly continued claims for payment and returning any requested documentation from the agency.
Thanks so much, Amy. That's really helpful. Jacob, I think this one is for you. Who pays into unemployment insurance?
Well, that's very simple. In the state of Wyoming, it's employers only. Employees don't pay any unemployment taxes, so this is an entirely employer-based benefit.
Okay, good to know. Amy, where do you file a claim for unemployment insurance?
All right, a claim can be filed either online at our website, wyui.wyo.gov, which I think will be put into the chat, or they can also be filed over the telephone with our claim center, and our phone number is 307-473-3789. Both of those can also be, they are accessible from our workforce centers within Wyoming. So if you'd rather go in person to do that, you can, instead of calling from home or getting on your own computer.
Thanks, Amy. And I'll just put a quick plug in for our workforce centers. We have 18 across the state. You can find their locations on our website as well if you need more information on that. They're very helpful and can give you kind of basic information on unemployment insurance. Kay, this next question is for you, I believe. I recently relocated to Wyoming and began working for a local employer, but I was let go. Am I eligible for Wyoming unemployment benefits?
I recommend you just contact the UI Claim Center to determine whether you're going to file your claim in Wyoming or in the state that you worked prior. In order to file in Wyoming, you have to have wages in our base period. And the best way to determine that is to just give us a call and we can walk you through that.
Thank you. That sounds good. We have some really helpful people in our claim center that are very well versed in unemployment insurance benefits, so they can be very helpful. Next question is for Amy. What happens if my employer substantially reduces the number of hours I work? Could I qualify for UI?
That's a great question, and it happens often. You may be eligible for unemployment benefits if your work hours are reduced to less than 35 hours a week. You must be working all available hours that are offered by your employer, and you must be earning less than your weekly unemployment benefit amount. You must accurately track and report your work hours and wages each week, and your eligibility for benefits will be assessed on a week-by-week basis.
Oh, that's helpful. Okay, this question's for you. If I become unemployed but am able to find a part-time job, can I still claim unemployment insurance until I find a full-time job?
Yes, the short answer is yes. If you're working less than those 35 hours and earning less than what you receive in your unemployment benefits, you may continue to file. You will be asked to accurately report the hours you work and the ages you earn each, or the wages you earn each week on your weekly continued claims. Failure to do so could cause an overpayment that you would have to repay, and a denial for future benefits. So it's really important to report those wages correctly and continue meeting all other eligibility requirements.
Thank you. Amy, how much money will I receive if I need to claim unemployment insurance?
Okay. Unemployment benefits are typically paid out at approximately 1/3 of your average weekly wage. And that is a very rough estimate. This wage is calculated based on earnings from employers during the specific time period that we use to determine your unemployment claim. That time period is called a base period, and we'll explain that a little bit later. You cannot receive more than the maximum weekly benefit that is allowed by the state.
Great, thank you. And that's a good segue into the next question. What is the maximum benefit amount you can collect on unemployment insurance?
So that amount changes every year. And as of July of this year, the maximum weekly benefit amount in Wyoming is $651. It changes every fiscal year, so it's going to be July when it changes each time. The amount that each claimant qualifies for is based on their individual wages in their base period of the claim.
Okay. And what is the maximum benefit period you can collect unemployment insurance benefits?
So the maximum benefit amount that can be paid out is 26 weeks within a 52-week time period. The number of payable weeks is also dependent on an individual's wages in their base period.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think this question is for you. If my unemployment insurance benefits are denied, what are my options to appeal that decision?
If your benefits are denied, you do have the right to protest that decision. You can file a protest either online or within writing. It does need to be within 28 days of the mail date of the decision. On the back of your notice, there is instructions on how to do that appeal. At that time, a telephone hearing will be scheduled with the hearing officer. They are from our appeals division, and that will give you another chance to represent your information or even introduce new information if you would like.
Thank you, Kay. Shelby, I think we've got a question for you on our RESEA program. I was notified I was selected for the RESEA program. What is that?
That's a great question, Holly. So the RESEA program is fairly new to Wyoming. It stands for Reemployment Services and Eligibility Assessment. And the whole purpose of this program is to connect UI claimants with resources that are available to them through the Department of Workforce Services and our workforce centers. This can include referrals to programs that can assist with retraining through the Workforce Investment Act, WIOA, or Vocational Rehab, DVR, to help with that retraining to get you into a new career. Or we can also just provide assistance with job searching, mock interviews, job applications, or with resumes.
Awesome. That sounds like a really great program that many folks can take advantage of. Another question on the RESEA program: can I volunteer to participate in the RESEA program?
So if you're selected for RESA, you must attend that. That is mandatory. So failure to attend a scheduled appointment would be could possibly result in some issues on your claim. On the flip side, you must be selected to participate in the program. Participants in the RESA program are selected based on very specific criteria. However, the services that are offered to these claimants are available to everyone through our workforce centers. So if you are interested in any of those programs that I mentioned, I would highly suggest you reach out to someone at your local workforce center and schedule an appointment.
Wonderful. Thank you for that information. And I believe they just put in the chat how to reach your nearest workforce center as well. So thank you for that. Next, we're gonna switch to looking at the life of a claim and what that looks like. This next question, I believe, goes out to Amy. How long does it take to process the initial unemployment insurance claim once it has been filed?
All right, an initial claim is established immediately and all the required paperwork is sent out at that time. However, it could take 3 to 4 weeks to determine eligibility for benefits.
Okay, that's helpful to know that time frame. Okay, can I attend training and receive unemployment insurance benefits? If so, what would be an approved training program? And how long can I receive training?
The short answer on this one, it is possible. We do have approved training programs that allow claimants to attend school and collect unemployment also at the same time. Each situation is different. So if you're interested in attending a school or training program, it's best to reach out to the Claims Center at 307-473-3789 and to gather some more information on that specific to the type of training you'd like to attend.
Okay, that's really helpful. So it sounds very individualized and they need to reach out to the claims center.
Yes.
Thank
Yes,
you,
correct.
Kate. Amy, are unemployment insurance benefits taxable?
Yes, they are. Federal taxes are deducted from unemployment benefits at a rate of 10%. And an individual can choose to deduct them as they receive their unemployment payments, or they can pay them when they file their taxes.
Okay, wonderful. So they've got a couple options there. Okay, does unemployment insurance withhold child support from the UI benefits?
Yes, a child support is owed in the state of Wyoming, and there's an order for child support. It is withheld from unemployment benefits and paid directly to child support on the claimant's behalf.
Okay. Another question for you, Kay. Do you have to keep track of the work searches completed while receiving unemployment insurance benefits? And how many work searches are required?
Great question. Yes, you are required to keep a log of your work searches for the entire time you're filing for unemployment. You must apply for a minimum of 2 jobs per week. You will be asked to supply those work searches on your continued weekly claims. In addition, mandatory eligibility review forms are sent every 4 weeks. They go a little more detailed. They ask for your work searches, and they also verify some able and available questions. If you don't return one of those, no payments can be made until we actually receive that form back. So it's really important to keep track of those work searches and respond to that form when you receive it. Anytime the minimum work searches aren't met and it's discovered after the fact, that could put a claim into overpayment for those weeks that were paid improperly.
Okay, thank you. Follow-up question, what happens if an employee refuses suitable work while receiving unemployment insurance benefits?
Sure. If a claimant refuses suitable work while collecting unemployment benefits, the Claim Center adjudication team will investigate that. It could result in a denial of benefits. It goes through an investigation to determine why that work was refused and determine eligibility.
That's very helpful, thank you. Amy, next question for you. How are the benefit year and phase period determined?
All right, with unemployment, we have regulations that come from the U.S. Department of Labor. And we also have Wyoming statutes that dictate how these are determined. The benefit year for an initial, well, An initial claim begins on the Sunday of the week in which an individual contacts our agency to file a claim. And then the claim is valid for a 52-week period. The base period, the wages used to determine the amount of benefits payable on the claim, they are the first 4 of the last 5 completed calendar quarters. And if you can see the picture that's being displayed right now, if you look at that slide, on the right-hand side in, I think it's orange, we are currently in September. So the 3rd one down, July to September, if a claim was filed today, then the wages used on that claim are the gray area that is to the left, and it would be from April of last year through, where does that get me? Through March of this year. So there's always a little bit of a lag period that's not used. The most recent quarter is never a part of the calculation, and the quarter that we're in is not a part of it either.
Okay, that was super helpful. Next, we're going to turn our focus to employer rights and obligations. So this one's going to go out to Stacy Huss, who is our UI tax chief. Stacy, are there options through unemployment insurance for employers if they are struggling financially and maybe facing temporary layoffs or possible closure?
So there are a couple things we have that you can do. First of all, I would say reach out to us and we can help you because these are individualized. A big thing we always recommend to each employer is keep filing your reports. Don't stop filing the reports. Even if you can't pay the tax, keep filing those reports. That gives us your exact tax due, but it also makes it so any of the employees that you have to lay off, they can get claims, they can make claims, and they can get their unemployment easily. Then we can also we can get you in touch with our audit division, and they can help you create a payment plan, and when you have that exact tax, they can create that payment plan. And setting that up, that ensures that you can still, as an employer, receive those certificates of good standing, so you can still apply for other projects. We also have a newer plan, which is STC, which stands for short-time compensation. And depending on your situation, it might be a good resource for you. We do have the DWS website. We have much more detail on there, and they should be putting that link up. There's also an email there where you can email the STC team. They can go over your options with you and see if they can help you find a good plan that fits you.
Perfect, that's great information. Thank you, Stacy. Okay, what options do employers have to object to the unemployment insurance benefits being awarded to a former employee?
Employers are notified that the claim's been filed at the time that the claim, when the claim is filed. A notice goes out. We ask for separation information. So if the separation is either a discharge or a quit, the employer has 10 days from the mail date on that form to provide us information as to why the separation occurred. If the claim's filed as a layoff, the employer has 28 days to file the UI benefits to let us know that it was something other than a layoff, if it was. Once the decision's been made, all parties are given protest rights. To appeal, protest must be filed within 28 days of the mail date of the form. The appeals rights and the instructions are always going to be on the back side of the decision. So employers do get the opportunity to provide us separation information up front. And then again, once the decision's made, they have protest rights.
Thank you so much. That's a lot of good information. I appreciate you pointed out those 2 different timeframes and that the instructions on how to appeal are on the back of that determination. That's a good tip. Stacy, how are unemployment tax rates determined for employers?
So it's kind of, we'll go to a high view of this on just going over how they're calculated in the basics. really it's important to remember your rates change every year. So every December, we calculate your rate for the next year. Those are mailed out at the end of December. If you have access to your WYUI account, you might be able to see them at the end of December. But they do get mailed out December 31st. So you will have them the beginning of January. So make sure that you're looking out for that rate notice so you can get it to your payroll provider or get it in your payroll system. So the first thing we look at is if you're a standard rate employer or an experience-based employer, which means if you're standard, it means that you have less than 3 years of taxable wage reporting history. So if you are under that 3 years, you're getting a rate based on your industry. So it basically takes the industry benefit charges and divides it by the industry's taxable wages, and that is your base rate for that year. If you're an experience rated employer, you're running on your own experience, which is you have more than 3 years of taxable wages reported, and we will take your total benefit charges for the 3 fiscal years divided by the total taxable wages for the 3 fiscal years, and that will give you your base rate. We then take all the base rates and we add them to the fund balance adjustment factors. Those factors are based on the health of the UI trust fund. It's based on the trust fund balance, claims, all kinds of taxable wage information, and it comes up with these numbers. We add that to your rate, and that's your total rate. Now, it's important, and I wanted to remind employers because now is a good time. September 30th is coming up. If you have a balance due as of September 30th, and that means a wage report, a summary report, an outstanding balance, that could put you in the category of getting an extra 2% put on your rate. So if you can get that paid and get that taken care of before September 30th, you can save yourself a little money by not having that 2% on there.
Wonderful. Thank you, Stacy. That was a lot of good information and appreciate you noting that September 30th deadline for employers. That's really important. Jacob is also in our tax division, and this next question will go out to him. How does an employer register for unemployment insurance in Wyoming?
So an employer will navigate to our website, the same website that our benefit claimants use, wyui.wyo.gov, and they will choose new account registration. It's important to note that an employer will start the registration. They will include their contact information, include some basic information about the business, and then the system will log that. The employer then has to log back into the system to complete the registration. And we do sometimes have employers that will complete that first part, but not the second part, and they'll call in wondering where their registration is at and it hasn't been completed. I do want to encourage any employers, if you have registered and you haven't heard back, do feel free to reach out to us. There's a couple different ways that are being posted in the chat. You can call us directly, or we have an email address where we're monitoring that, and we will be happy to help you out with any questions that you have along the way.
Thank you, Jacob. I appreciate you clarifying that the employer really needs to start that registration process, set up their user ID, provide that basic information about the business, and then log back into the site to complete that registration. That's a good, important point. And thanks for the contact information. I know that email is looked at daily and folks respond really quickly. So thank you. Stacy, what resources are available to help employers understand and manage unemployment insurance?
I would say the tax division, that's your best resource. If you have questions, as in the chat, there's the phone number and the email. You can get a hold of us. If we need to get you help from the claim side, if we need to have benefit side, if we need to get you any answers, we can help you get directed there. So we do have, when you do call that phone number, We do have an attendant on there that kind of directs you to different areas if you want to go. But if you just want to talk to a live person, just hold on. And at the very end, you'll get our secretary, and she will direct you to wherever you need to go, and will help you get whatever questions that you have answered on your account.
Wonderful, thank you. Jacob, how does an employer obtain a certificate of good standing for unemployment insurance from unemployment insurance?
A certificate of good standing can be obtained in a couple of different ways. The first way, and we're going to post this website in the chat, is to visit cogs.wyo.gov. You'll want to be putting in your federal ID number, and that's how it can look it up. It is important to note that this system is designed to work with unemployment insurance and workers' compensation. So you should be able to, if you're an employer who has an active account in our system, you should be able to utilize that. There are several reasons why an employer might not be able to get an automated certificate of good standing. We do require that employers are current on their account, meaning that all filings are caught up and all taxes and interest penalties, anything like that would have been paid. There are some exceptions that Stacy talked about earlier, that if you happen to be on a repayment plan, as long as we have that documented, then we will give exceptions and we can get employers a temporary certificate of good standing. It is also important to note that we have a lot of employers in our state that are considered not liable, so they're not subject to Wyoming unemployment tax. And they are still eligible for a certificate of good standing to be able to be eligible for getting, government contracts, those sorts of things. I know WYDOT is really big on making sure that any contractors that they use are in good standing. The only thing that we ask with those non-liable employers is that they maintain an active registration with us. So we'll let you know if you've requested a certificate of good standing and it's been more than a year since you last updated your registration. We'll just ask you to update that, and then we're happy to get you that certificate.
Wonderful, thanks, Jacob. Stacy, how often does an employer need to file a wage report?
It's always quarterly. The quarterly due dates do not change. So it's pretty, what the quarterly is coming up. Quarter 1 is 4/30, quarter 2 is 7/31, quarter 3 is 10/31, and quarter 4 is 1/31. And I think she was going to put up a link on our DWS website that has those dates. And if one of those dates lands on the weekend, then it is actually the first business day after that weekend. So that's important to note too.
Yeah, good tip. Stacy, can you explain what excess wages are when completing a quarterly report?
Okay, excess wages, they change every year. And we do have them on our website, so you can see by year what they are. When employers pay taxes, this is basically a cap on the gross wages on the tax you're going to pay. So this year, for example, 2025, the excess wage base is $32,400. So on an employee who works with you throughout the whole year, you're only going to pay tax on their wages of $32,400. Anything after that they make is not taxable. It's still reportable. So you still have to report it, but it becomes what we call excess wages. And you subtract that from your total tax and only pay on the tax that you're supposed to after that excess wage amount. If you use our WYUI system, it will automatically calculate that excess wage for you. So it's a bonus to use that if you don't want to keep track of that.
Okay, good tip, thank you. Jacob, my employee works out of state but lives in Wyoming. Which state should I report their wages to?
So this is kind of a complicated situation. There's different answers depending on a multitude of different variables. So generally, wages are reported to the state where they're earned. So in a situation where you have a Wyoming resident employee that's working in another state, I would encourage you always to register with that state because their they're pretty much going to have the first right to say those wages should be reported to us, and we'll kind of default to them. If that state happens to say the work isn't localized here, they're here for a very short amount of time, then yes, those wages, as long as the employee, also works in Wyoming, then they can be reported here. That's a perfectly suitable thing too. But in all of those cases, it's important to contact the different states. So like I said, reach out to the state where they're going to be performing the work, and reach out to the state of Wyoming, because the last thing that you want to do is just not report the employee anywhere, and then you find out that they filed for an unemployment claim, and then you don't have anything set up, and you kind of end up in a delinquent status. So definitely feel free to reach out at any of the places that we've mentioned before, and we'll help you understand that situation.
Okay, wonderful. Next question, Jacob, is I issued someone a 1099. Should I report their wages?
So in many situations, a worker, even though they're given a 1099 as opposed to a W-2, is still considered an employee under Wyoming statute as opposed to an independent contractor. Again, we have questionnaires that we provide to both the employee and the employer to get a better understanding of the employee-employer relationship, or to have that be a contractor-subcontractor type of relationship. So always feel free to reach out. We'll help guide you. And again, it is important not to misclassify your workers. That is something that can get employers into a situation where they owe back taxes, and can find themselves with some of those other delinquent penalty notices. So definitely reach out if you're hiring someone on and plan to issue them a 1099. They may still be considered an employee if they meet certain statutory requirements.
Thank you, Jacob. That's a good lead into the next question for Stacy. An employer asks, I made a mistake on my last wage report. How can I change this?
Okay, you have a couple ways you can do this. If you have access to your WYUI account, you can log in and you can amend your report online, and that will calculate any tax or any credit that you're getting from reporting those wages. There are instructions on the website if you need them, or as always, you can always call us and we'll walk you through, we'll assist you with it. We do also offer a paper form on the DWS wyo.gov website. That has the paper wage list, the paper summary, and gives instructions on how to complete that amended report. And as always, if you need help, reach out, give us a call, we'll help you.
Thank you, Stacy. Jacob, is coverage optional for sole proprietors, partners, corporate officers, and LLC members?
So the easiest way to determine this is to utilize the reporting exemptions document that's available on dws.wyo.gov. But in general, a breakdown, sole proprietors and partners in a partnership are exempt from UI. They cannot opt in. All employees of a corporation, and I want to express, we're looking at the business as formed at the state level, so how you incorporated your business with the Secretary of State. We're not concerned necessarily with how you file with the IRS. We want to know how your business is formed. But all employees of a corporation, including corporate officers, are reportable for unemployment insurance in the state of Wyoming. For an LLC, coverage is optional for those members if they happen to make an election to report as a corporation at the federal level and they want to report at the state level to meet certain guidelines for federal unemployment tax and state unemployment tax. They can opt in and they are eligible to report, but it is not an assumption that they're covered. So if you form an LLC and you would like to report your wages and you have questions about that, definitely reach out to us and we can help you understand what that looks like, because we don't want to have to go back and take your wages off after you've already reported them to us because you were ineligible. And also, we don't want you to have to pay back taxes to the IRS because it turns out that wages that you had reported as being, paid to Wyoming actually weren't when we have to take those wages off. So again, always reach out. We're happy to help you understand your situation.
Okay, thank you. Stacy, how do you report wages for a corporate officer?
So wages are reported on the paper form and the online wage list the same way. There's a section at the bottom of both that says corporate officer or LLC member. Just put it's at the same time your employees are reported. Just put your corporate officer information in there, the wages they made, and it's all filed.
Okay. Another question for you. Do I need to report employee contributions to a section 125 cafeteria fund?
Okay, so first you want to make sure that it is approved under the section 125. Most of them are, just make sure you're following those guidelines. But employees contribute a portion of their salary, so that's pre-tax. So you're basically taking the gross wages and whatever the pre-tax the employee is saying you're taking out for that, and you're subtracting that. That is the gross taxable wages that you report to UI. A good double check on this is whatever you're reporting to Medicare taxable wages, you're reporting to UI. That's just a good double check in the background if you're looking for a math check.
Perfect, that's a good tip. Thank you so much. Okay, next we're going to focus on a couple questions that we got regarding UI fraud. So Kristen, I believe these questions are for you. What are some examples of UI fraud?
UI fraud is any kind of misrepresentation of yourself or material facts on your unemployment claim. Most notably is when you do not report your wages accurately or at all, including any tips you earn or any self-employment wages. Misreporting the reason for no longer working, refusing work, not seeking work but saying you are. Anyone doing anything on a claim that is not the claimant to include attending meetings is considered fraud as well as using someone else's social security number to file for unemployment. That is considered identity theft fraud.
Okay, those are some great examples. Thank you for that. Next question on fraud is, what do you do if you suspect someone is committing UI fraud?
If you suspect someone is committing fraud, there are a couple ways you can report that. The most convenient way is online on the dws.wyo.gov website. Under contact, you will find a link to report fraud. You can click on that link, then submit as much information as possible. All of these submitted forms are reviewed and investigated. You also have the option to call in with any suspicions. If you suspect someone is filing benefits using someone else's social security number, you can report that in the same way or call 307-235-3236.
Wonderful, thank you. And I think that phone number was just placed in the chat as well. I really want to thank the UI team for their amazing experience and knowledge, from our benefits team to our tax team and our fraud team. I'm going to turn it back over to Miss Erin Turbett. Thanks, Erin.
Thank you, Holly, and thank you so much, UI team. This has been super informative, an amazing amount of information in a very short amount of time. So lucky for everyone, this is being recorded. You will have the opportunity to go back and watch this again. And as this team has said over and over, if you've got questions, call them, email them. They are amazingly helpful individuals. Their entire team is just fabulous and really, really helpful. So now we have some questions, and let me go to my document here. First question, this is about work search and seasonal work. So I work in Yellowstone during the summer. During the winter, I go to the East Coast to visit family. What do I do about my work search requirements?
I can take that one. It depends. If you're considered a commuter, meaning that you regularly work in Wyoming and then go back, you would be registered for work and looking for work in the state of Wyoming. If you're not considered a commuter, meaning that you live on the East Coast year round and do some seasonal work in Wyoming, at that time you would register for work in the state that you live in, and you can do your work searches anywhere. They don't have to be in the state that you're in. So registration in the state that you're physically in, and work searches can be completed anywhere within the US.
Thank you, Kay. Another seasonal question. Can you explain the requirements for job-attached unemployment? I work seasonally in Wyoming.
I'll go ahead and take that one. To be job attached, there are certain requirements that must be met, and the unemployment insurance agency makes that decision. The employer that you are intending to go back to work for, they have to have paid at least 50% of the wages in the base period on your claim. So we go back and we look at all the wages that are tied to your unemployment claim. You also, the employer has to have the intention of having you back to your regular amount of hours within 12 weeks of when you start your claim. So if you're going to be going back to work within a month and they've paid the majority of your unemployment benefits, the base period wages, then that's where we would reach out to the employer and confirm that that individual is returning to work. They would be job attached. If it's somebody you just started for work for, you would have to register for work and be actively seeking work with other employers. So that's an agency decision.
Thank you, Amy. Next, if an employee is working in a school district, are they eligible for unemployment? Most schools end in May or June and then return around August.
I will take this one. If an employee has reasonable assurance of returning to work with the school district, whether that's a written contract or just a verbal, hey, you're coming back in the fall, those school district wages cannot be used to make a claimant monetarily eligible for unemployment. Now, if they have other wages in the base period that could make them monetarily eligible, they would still be able to file and collect. But we have to suppress the school district wages. So yes, you could be eligible to collect, but you're not eligible to collect using the school district's wages if you plan on returning in the fall.
Okay, thank you, Kay. Next question. Can you have unemployment even if you are over 67 years old and you lost a full-time job, but you are drawing Social Security benefits?
Sure, there's no age requirements on unemployment. Social Security benefits do not impact your unemployment claim at all.
Very good, thank you. Next question. What options does an employer have if an employee voluntarily leaves a position that is still available for them to work, and then the employee files for unemployment?
First off, we need to know the separation. So please fill out and return the questionnaire on the separation itself. If you receive a form saying that the claimant was determined to be laid off, that's because the claimant told us that, please respond to us with what actually happened on that separation. So employers have the opportunity to give us the information up front before the decision is made. And then again, after the decision, they do have protest rights.
Thank you. If you are considered a contract employee and you get laid off, can you still collect unemployment insurance benefits?
This question really ties into the one earlier with the 1099 employees. You can file unemployment benefits, and then we have to determine whether or not this is an employer-employee relationship or if it's truly contract labor, which would be considered self-employment. and those wages are not used to make a claim monetarily eligible. So it could go either way, depending on the relationship with the employer.
Okay. Next question, what is the best way for claimants to report changes? Like if they have an address change or they were just hired somewhere?
Claimants can log into their account for any type of address changes, phone changes, email changes. And if they've started new work, they can simply, one, just stop filing their continued claims or contact us to let us know they found new employment.
Okay, thank you. Next, we're going to move on to workers' compensation related claims. But it sounds like this also applies to unemployment insurance. So if you are on workers' compensation and the employer terminates you, can you apply for unemployment insurance once you are released from workers' comp if you have not found employment?
I'll go ahead and take this one. Yes, you are more than welcome to apply for unemployment. We will, of course, make sure that you're meeting the requirements, that you are able in some capacity to work, that you are looking for work, so able, available, and actively seeking work. And we also, we have kind of an alternative base period when somebody's been on workers' compensation. So if the time frame that they were receiving workers' compensation was, if it was total temporary disability, we have the opportunity to look at their wages prior to the injury. But of course, there are some guidelines, there are some stipulations. They had to have been separated from total temporary disability within the last 60 days. And their actual injury had to have been within the last 3 years or 36 months. So, it all depends on the circumstance, but absolutely give us a call or file online. We will go through those. We will check your eligibility, and there is no harm in trying.
Thank you, Amy. Last one for workers' comp related questions. Does the RESEA program, that reemployability program, work with workers' compensation also?
That's a great question. So the RESEA program is currently strictly for unemployment claimants. Like I said, there's a very specific criteria for that. However, all of our programs that we have through the workforce centers are available to anyone. And if you are on workers' compensation and your injury has made it so that you can't return to that work, they also have some specific programs. So my suggestion would be to talk to your claims analyst about what your options would be.
Thank you, Shelby. Now we're going to go into employer-related questions. Who is the arbitrator between employer and employee when an employer challenges a claim from a former employee?
I'll take that one. Initially, an adjudicator gathers all the facts of the claim, reaches out to the employer, to the claimant if they need additional information. Once it has gone through the adjudication process and a decision's been made, if either party then appeals that decision, a hearing officer at that time would, during the hearing, both parties are sworn in. You have the employer and the claimant on the phone at the same time. A hearing officer has no prior knowledge of the claim or the facts of the claim, and they basically just start from the beginning with both parties on the phone at that time.
Okay, thank you. If a company does not pay a set rate, but rather pays claims as they come up, can the company still appeal a decision for unemployment?
I can cover that one. So the situation that you've described is what we call a reimbursable employer, and it's kind of a specific subset of employers. But yes, there is still eligibility to dispute unemployment benefits. It can be a little bit more complicated because if you as the employer were not the most recent employer of record. So if you had an employee, they left your service and went to another job and were then laid off from there, it gets a little bit more complicated for some of those benefit claims. And in those situations, again, it's best to reach out to us and find out. But any documentation that you receive pertaining to a benefit claim being made against your business, it will explain on that documentation what information they need and your rights as an employer. And so you always want to fill those out as completely and accurately as possible and return them timely so that they can be considered, because even if benefit charges are charged against your business, there are situations where those charges can be essentially non-charged, so that it doesn't count against your business. But those are all very specific to the individual employer and the individual situation.
Thank you, Jacob. How often do you need to update your WYUI registration?
I can take that one also. So in general, if an employer hasn't registered within a year, we might consider them to be, I guess, out of or have an inactive registration. Now, it's important. Employers do not have to re-register every single year. If you're searching or if you're looking for a certificate of good standing for a particular project, or to apply for a grant or something like that, then yes, certainly you might be required to re-register. But we are certainly managing a workload, and have every employer just re-register every single year would be a little bit overwhelming. So I would encourage employers not to just re-register, on your calendar, mark it for, July 1st and just say, I'll just submit a new registration every year. Only submit those as they're needed, so that one, it can, I guess, reduce a little bit of unnecessary effort on the employer's part. Because if you're not needing a certificate of good standing until, say, December, you may have already burned 6 months of your registration when it only needed to be submitted in December. So again, it's one of those where definitely feel free to reach out and we can help you understand that situation.
Thank you, Jacob. Can one of you let me know what are your hours?
The tax division is 8 to 5, Monday through Friday.
And the claims center, our phones are on 8 to 4, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Fridays. They are on 8 to noon on Wednesdays. We use Wednesday afternoons to get caught up, do training, that type of stuff.
Thank you. Okay. Why is it important to send back the employer questionnaire after unemployment has been filed?
Great question. That is your opportunity to give us the facts of what happened for the separation. If the questionnaire is not returned, a decision on that claim is being made only with the claimant's information, since the employer has not supplied anything. So it's really important to get that up front. A lot of times that can prevent it from having to go to a hearing. If we have all the information up front, there's no reason for an employer to have to appeal if everything is provided and it's ruled correctly to begin with.
Okay, we have 4 questions left. So let's try to get through these. If an out-of-state employer is wanting to post jobs on HireYO for jobs in the area, do they need to get a certificate of good standing? And also, how long does it take to get a certificate of good standing?
So yes, and in order for those employers to be able to post jobs on Hire Wyoming or Hire WYO, they do need to be in good standing, so they'll need that certificate. So they will need to submit a registration with us if they have not within the past year. And generally, if you're registering for a certificate of good standing to be able to post a job, we generally give those a priority, and we can usually get that approval for that certificate turned around in usually less than 48 hours. If we do need additional information from the employer to be able to determine if there's potential liability, then certainly you're going to want to answer those questions as quickly and accurately as you can, because those sorts of requests for information can't hold up a certificate.
Okay, thank you very much. We probably have about 20 seconds left and still 3 questions. So I am going to give these questions to this team and have them answer in writing for us. And we will send that with our follow-up email for you for these last 3 questions. Thank you, everyone, so very, very much. This has been a phenomenal, phenomenal session. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you all learned just a great deal. And I hope what you take out of this is that this team is ready and willing to help. Absolutely available to answer your questions. And thank you all so very, very much. Have a wonderful afternoon, everyone. I almost forgot the most important part. Send us, do the survey, fill out the survey, tell us what you thought. Please do that. That would be fabulous. And then the survey link is in the chat. And then last but not least, coming up, another panel, Safety First Wyoming, empowering employers to build safer workplaces. This includes OSHA, workers' compensation, safety and risk, risk management, and the mines, the mines office, among others. I know that I've forgotten something, so sorry about that, but looking forward to that next one as well. Thank you all so very much. We will see you next time. Oh, okay. We will fix the survey link. We'll fix it. I don't know why it did that, but I'll fix it, and you'll be able to take that survey in about 30 seconds. So thank you all so much. Have an absolutely fabulous day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.